Hello and welcome back to another episode of Backyard Boston. I'm Gigi.
And I'm Ryan, and we're glad to have you back because Gigi, guess what we have planned for today?
Oh my god, are we going to Six Flags?
No.
Are we going to Disneyland?
I wish, but you saw my wallet last episode. No, today we're encountering the first of Boston.
Cool, but what does that really mean?
Well, let's get some backstory. Over the past 250 years, Massachusetts has been home to many incredible firsts. Not only in Boston, not only in Massachusetts, but in the entire United States of America.
Okay, so what you're saying is that Boston is kind of like, it's pretty old, like Poirier type of stuff.
Well, kind of, but not really. Anyways, we're in our first location right now.
Okay, so we're in the Boston Public Garden, which is the first botanical garden in America.
Yep. It was created in 1839 by Horace Gray and wasn't completed until 1880.
So the land we're actually on used to be marshy water, as the rest of Back Bay, but early in the 1800s, the city went through a process of filling in the rest of the land.
Not only is it the first botanical garden, but it's the second public park in the country, second only to the Boston Commons.
But we'll get to that later.
The garden features a large pond in the middle of it, where in the summertime you could ride swan boats.
I wish we could do that.
Well, we could jump in. Just kidding, that's nasty.
The garden also includes some statues of some really famous people, including George Washington and some cute little ducklings.
On a warm summer day, you'll see hundreds of people walking and laying in the grass, listening to the music of street performers, and watching the wildlife run around.
It's a really great place to study.
Or get married.
Or just to walk through and grab a coffee. Speaking of which, we'll see you at our next location.
What should we get?
We can get a cup of coffee, some breakfast sandwiches, some donuts.
Or a dozen.
But you're paying. We are currently in the first ever Dunkin' Donuts in the world. That's right, we are in Quincy, so it's technically not in Boston, but it's definitely worth the trip.
New England residents are used to seeing Dunkin' Donuts in every corner. But, fun fact, Dunkin' Donuts didn't even exist until after World War II.
That's right. In 1939, William Rosenberg, who is a shipyard worker, decided to open a food truck for those Boston factory workers who were hungry at work.
Labor laws, am I right?
So then he realized that the most popular items were donuts and coffee. He decided in 1949 to open up a donut shop called Open Kettle, and then he decided to open up and change the name to Dunkin' Donuts.
And the rest is history. This tastes like a Dunkin' Donut, but more original.
Right? Well, now that we got our breakfast, we should head to school.
Gigi, how much time until school starts?
We have about 20 minutes to spare.
Oh good, we have time to explain everything. We are currently in front of the Boston Latin School, which was established in 1635.
Boston Latin School is the oldest public school in the country. This school helped AIM students get to Harvard University, and some famous alumni include Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, and Iowa Debris.
Sorry, Gigi. Women weren't allowed to study here until 1972.
1972? I mean, at least I can go to Harvard, right? Right?
We'll get to that later.
Well, besides being the oldest school in the country, Boston Latin School has its longest rival football game against the English School of Boston. They held their games every Thanksgiving starting in 1887.
Except for 2020. They played through World War I, World War II, and the Spanish flu, but for COVID, they shut down for a year. Their games are held at Harvard Stadium, which reminds me of our next stop. Gigi, let's go to college.
Not only was the first public school founded here in Boston, but also the first university.
Actually, Harvard is in Cambridge.
Anyways, Harvard University was founded in 1636 by John Harvard, originally founded as a place for ministers to go and educate themselves for the new nation. It slowly developed into, well, Harvard University, where students can go and study. But back to my question, Ryan, were women allowed to go and study here back in the early days?
Well, no, but Radcliffe College was created as an alternative for women in 1879. It wasn't until World War II where Radcliffe and Harvard started doing integrated classes, and it wasn't until 1979 where Radcliffe was fully integrated into Harvard.
That's crazy how only 45 years ago women still weren't allowed to attend Harvard. But since the beginning of the nation, women had these rights like the right to attend college, the right to vote, etc. But now we're proud to name these powerful female alumni that attended Harvard, such as Natalie Portman, Michelle Obama, and Rashida Jones.
Today, Harvard is one of the most prestigious colleges and is an esteemed member of the Ivy Leagues. Some of its most famous alumni include Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, 8 presidents of the U.S., including JFK and Obama, and many other politicians and world leaders also came here. Maybe in the next 30 years, one of these students will be president.
Now we're gonna hop back into the T, back to Boston, but Ryan, we got one more stop along the way. Charles River is a beautiful place in the city of Boston, but also known to be quite the spooky occurrence. The UFO was seen here in the Charles River, written in the diary of the governor of Massachusetts, John Winthrop.
3 men claimed they saw a massive light as they were going down the river, and they followed it for 2 to 3 hours. They claimed it was darting across the sky, and when it finally disappeared, they ended up a mile upstream from where they started.
John Winthrop then again wrote in his diary 5 years later that 3 men on a boat claimed to see another mysterious lighting. Ryan, what do you think about these weird UFO sightings?
I think it's quite strange that they've all occurred in the exact same place, and that, whoa,
Whoa! What just happened?
I think we just took the T.
No, that wasn't the T. This is the T. But that's just not any ordinary subway. It's the first subway in the history of this country.
Take that, New York.
Back in the 1600s, farmers had to go everywhere to deliver their crops. They used rail cars pulled by horses, ferries, electric streetcars, but unfortunately, all of those had flaws.
So the governor and the mayor worked together to create 4 elevated railways and 1 underground tunnel. In 1897, the Tremont T Station opened as the first in the country and the 3rd in the world.
The tunnels that are used today were used years ago, and even lines have been added too recently.
I didn't know the T was so old. Maybe that's why it's so slow.
And so loud. It's really cool how an important part of America's history is right near our school, and even our final location is right above us.
We've come full circle from the public gardens to the Boston Commons.
The Boston Common is the first public park in the United States. Back in the 1630s, the park used to be a cow pasture where the cows were known for grazing the lands. Then, in 1830, the mayor decided to ban the cows in the park. Boo!
More like moo. The Boston Commons was also the location of public executions. That was banned as well.
Now the park has a frog pond where in the summer the kids can play in the water, and in the winter it's turned into an ice skating rink.
There's also a baseball field here. You can always see a team playing, and the infamous bandstand where the Andre Good concert happened in 2023.
There's also a monument on top of the hill and also a cemetery.
The cemetery features another first. America's first composer, William Billings, is buried here. Also, the Boston Commons is located at the bottom of the staircase of the Massachusetts State House, where you can get a beautiful view of its golden dome. Well, that's the end of our tour.
I didn't know there were so many firsts in Boston.
Yep, pretty cool.
All this history and I barely noticed half the time.
You think we were the first in an episode on the first in Boston?
Maybe, but next time you're just walking around in the Common,
Or the public garden.
just notice you're walking around deep history of America.
Well, that's the end of our season and this episode.
We thank you for coming along to this journey with us, and we hope you learned something new. Bye.
Bye.